like to mostly have a BU, where you know, I figure if you come to one of these, it's because you have something on your mind, and we want to make sure, hello Tom, that we give you a chance to say that. Because we have a smaller group, I'd like to start by letting everybody just introduce yourself so we have a sense of who's in the room. So, yep, go ahead.
I'm Lori Glasper, and I am a co-founder and owner of a business called Legacy Endeavors, and we provide support to people with intellectual developmental disabilities and mental health concerns. I live in Plymouth.
And I am also a resident of Plymouth, Nancy Smith, and I'm a retired RN as of September 9th.
Congrats.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for your service.
Yeah.
Dave Smith, we live in Plymouth here, and we're interested in the Hollydale project in 494.
Good.
Shoulder,
Yeah.
Oh, okay, good.
I'm Mary Lou Monacan. I live just down Plymouth Boulevard in a condo, and
Great.
thought it'd be good to come.
Thank you.
Okay. I'm Brian Gustafson. I live in Plymouth. I don't have any specific topics this evening, but I've got to comment on a lot of them. So that's why
Okay,
I got your
good.
email, you know. So.
Yep.
I'm Kristen Anderson. I'm a nurse practitioner student at the College of St. Scholastica, and I'm here to support the 511 bill.
511 bill is
The healthcare initiative for nurse practitioners to practice independently without physician.
gotcha. Okay, very good. Thank you. Hello. Just
Hi.
introduce yourself.
Jim Hartman.
Yep.
I'm retired from
Nice to see
hanging
you.
around
Yep.
the city once in a while.
Great. So we're just having each person just introduce. My husband. Oh, yes, please introduce yourself.
Tom Erickson with the Minnesota Jobs Coalition. Kind of between places right now as my fiance and I decide what part of the Twin Cities we want to live in.
So, and he videotapes what I say and uses it as he deems fit, so. But,
That sounds dangerous.
It is dangerous.
They should really pay you guys. Matthew Knopf, I'm a Minnetonka resident, and sometimes I have trouble reaching my state senator.
My husband.
Tom Wickham, retired. Lost all my data, so.
Thanks for being here.
I'm Robert Shell. Live in Plymouth. I'm retired as well.
Great.
Over your house, retired law enforcement.
Tom Claiborne, I live in Plymouth. I'm not retired. But I might be someday, you never know.
Mind signing? Of course. Great. Do you have a pen? Yes. Okay. Thanks. Yeah.
Tom Dunn, Plymouth resident,
Very good.
Leslie House, business owner in Plymouth, Crystal resident.
Oh, Crystal resident, but business owner of Plymouth. Got it. Okay, thank you. Say your name.
Jerry Gale.
Yep.
That's it? Jerry Gale?
From Plymouth.
Plymouth.
Okay, great. And let's see. Is everyone else? Oh, Ben. Go ahead.
Thank you very much.
Ben Kiriakis from Plymouth, small business owner.
Very good. Okay, so with that, I'll begin just kind of an overview of what's happening at the Capitol. And you know, if you get my updates, you probably know it, but I think this gives us an opportunity to have a dialogue about it. So really the big issue at the Capitol is the budget. And it just has to be. You know, this is a budget year, number one. Number two, we've had the structural deficit for, you know, truly, it's almost been a decade. And so we have committed to address this budget deficit this session so that we can find ourselves on stronger financial footing. And so there's, if you are in the Senate, you talk about the deficit being $1.1 billion. If you're in the House, you talk about it a little differently because you add in what we borrowed from the school. And really, technically, the House is correct because what we borrowed was, we paid actually a good deal back, but we still owe in the regular aid shift, we owe about $500 million. We owe $500 million, and then we owe an additional $600 million from a shift that was the property tax recognition shift. So that would have brought the deficit then with the 1.1 and then that, you know, over 2. The reason why we in the Senate don't talk about it that way is because there's a mechanism in statute for how we pay back the ship. And the way that happens is that once you get the reserves up to a certain level and the cash flow account to a certain level, then anything over that, first dollar that comes in automatically goes to paying off both ships. And so that's how we've actually already paid off more than half of the ship. And I think we're, we'll see, but I'm hopeful that when we get the February forecast, we're gonna see another nice payment paying off the ship so that we may be down to just the property tax recognition ship in very short order. So because of that, when I look at what we have to do to balance the budget, I'm not counting that, although technically the Senate or the House, which has House File 1, paying back the ship, so technically that is correct. It is still part of our overall deficit, but again, as we've approached the overall budget in the Senate, we're looking at the actual structural deficit, not counting the ship. So sometimes, you get numbers from one side and they don't add up to the other, so I think that's important to understand where we're starting from. So really, we have to raise, in order to have a balanced budget, one way or another, through spending cuts or new revenues, through growth or through raising revenue, that additional 1.1. And then above that, there are things that people want to invest in, things that have been for some time not invested in. So for example, the governor put $240 million in his proposal for higher education. And he talked about that we have not, if you look at what we're paying now in higher ed, we haven't made an investment in higher ed since 1989. So it's been a long time. And so he put that forward. And there's things like, early childhood and various things that the governor put forward in his proposal. So those of you who just walked in, we did let everybody go and say their names. And so I'll stop this time to let you three who just came in. And then after that, we'll just kind of keep going. So you want to introduce yourself?
Dee Solers.
Okay. Nice to see you.
Gary Ringus.
Hi, Gary.
And Pam Arnstein.
Hi, Pam. Good. Okay, so so the governor put forward his budget in such a way that said, okay, we're going to solve the 1.1 and we're going to do some key investments. And the governor did say we'd pay back the ship, but he didn't even put that in right away. He said, that was for down the road. So he more approached it somewhere in between what the House and the Senate did. In doing that, the governor came up with a set of recommendations that not only balanced it, but it also made key investments in some of the things we've talked about. And then he said, this is just a first step. And so the thing that I really appreciate about the governor, and I have told him this, is how much I appreciate that he was willing to just courageously put forward his bold vision to solve the problems without kicking the can down the road and without using any financial shifts or gimmicks and say, this is what we're going to do and it's not going to be easy and it's going to be controversial and I'm going to put it forward. Okay, so that's what he did. So then we as legislators, we get to say, okay, that was the governor's map. Now we draw our map, and what does our map look like? And so I don't look at my role as saying, this was good about the governor's bill, that was good about the governor's bill. I look at it like, what's my vision for Minnesota? If I were starting from scratch, how would I approach this? Really, it is a problem. You got to call it what it is. It's a problem, the structural deficit. How would I approach it? And so the governor, I will say though, gave me a clue, because the governor put forward in his proposal this idea of sending $500 to every homeowner around the state as a property tax rebate. And that scored about a $1.4 billion cost to do that. And so I thought, wait a minute, that $1.1 billion, we have a structural deficit. Maybe if you didn't do that, there's that problem solved right away. Maybe there's actually enough money so that we wouldn't have a structural deficit if we didn't do that one. So that was my first thought. And the reason I say that, some people liked that proposal that the governor did, particularly I would say the more outstate legislators liked it because it's such a sizable piece of their property tax burden when you're in outstate Minnesota.